Bruchim Aboyim B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. We would like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yaakov Smith Shlita on Morah of Aim. Morah of Aim. Today's shir we're going to give Yisrael to Mishpachas Kalish. So we're going to have today's shir by Nishmas Aksav Sefer of Avram Shmuel Ben Yamin Gar Moshe Satzal. So I have to get Susa sponsoring a shir. Call Irgin Shir Torah 718-851-8651.
Recently we had a great pleasure, one of the Bacham Yeshiva who lives in Lakewood, and he asked me a question. He had just learned Hilchas Kibbut Aveim, the very last Sif, Reish Mem Sif Chaf Hei, with the Mechaber quotes a Gemara, and there's no machlokes about it, that if a parent wants to do something for a child, L'sharis is a ben, the father, a ben Torah, you're not allowed to let the father do something for the child. The child has to protest. A father can't work for a child. And he asked me, what does he do? He's in Lakewood. He's learning here in Brooklyn. He lives in Lakewood. He might need things. He calls his parents to bring things. Based on a machabit asa, to ask his father to do something for him. And in a world that has sort of redefined the mitzvah to kabid as bincha, as bitecha, as we know, it was very refreshing to hear a child that's asking a shayla, how do we be Mekayim this important halach in Shulchan Aruch? Then I had another question. Someone asked, his son got married and his daughter-in-law came into the family and she speaks to both him and his wife in third person. He's not used to that. He's used to children talking to parents in first person, you. And she speaks about the third person, the tati, the mami, and he wanted to know, what's the story? Then we had an interesting shayla a few months ago, when the COVID epidemic. So came Pesach time and there were no barbers open, and the question was, could a father give a child a haircut or vice versa? We'll soon see. And one more question that really caught my interest. I was by Levaya, Le'alechem, and there was a middle-aged Talmud Chacham talking about his father, the Nifter. And he made a very strong point that he lost his father. His father was his best friend. And I'm certain that some people were inspired by that statement, a father's his best friend. And I'm sure some found that a little questionable. A father's a best friend? So it's not a just for what he said, but what is the Torah hashkafa? Should a person look at his father, or should a father look at his son as best friends? Is that the right attitude? So we have a Torah Chayim, a Derech HaChayim, a Sam HaChayim. Let's look into Chazal and see guidance for these questions. We know the pasuk in Parashas Yisra is Mechayiv Kabir Esavicha Vesimecha, which the Gemara in Kedushin, the end of Amud Aleph, explains to do things for the father, feed him, dress him, bring him places. Then we find later, in the beginning of Parashas Kedushin, Ish Imay V'Aviv Tira'u. And as the Poskim explain, it's a very different type of mitzvah. Kibbut is doing good actions, and Morah is a respect. Don't contradict his words. Don't sit in his place. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Mitzvah Aleph, says to treat the father like a king. The Charedim says the father's a king and the mother's a queen. The Sefornu points out something very important. Since a child is always busy helping parents, it might come to a libay gas attitude, like, he becomes Hamish. Therefore, Zakti Sepornu and Parsh Kedoshim, you need the additional warning, Ish imay v'aviv tira'u. That's basically the introduction to the mitzvah of Kibbut Av. And I must mention, as the Gemara says, also in Kedushin, the end of Daf Lamed Amid Beis, there's no difference, father or mother. Fakert. When it comes to Morah, the pasuk first says mother, because the derech is we're scared of fathers, not mothers. When it comes to Kibbut, Torah first says aviv. In other words, basically there's no chilik father or mother regarding Kibbut or Morah. And then you learn our sugya. And let's learn the sugya because every word is important, as is every other Gemara. Zogt Gemara in Kedushin, Daf Lamed Aleph from Abayz, Omer Rabbi Yaakov LaAbaya. Rabbi Yaakov asked the question to Abaya. Kagoyna no da adasina mibei Rav. When I come home from yeshiva, Abba madli li kasa. My father fills me up a cup to drink. Ve'ima mizgalei. And my mother mixes it and gets it ready. It sounds like his parents believed in kabed as bincha v'espitecha. They were serving him. And Rabbi Yaakov could not accept that. His parents are serving me. So he asked Abaya, what should I do? So Abaya's response is, Me'imach kabel, me'avuch lois kabel. You're allowed to let the mother serve you, but not your father. That's a Gemara. Now, it seems to be an Issa, not only to ask a father or mother to do something, but on their own, or as Ben Yayad explains, they loved his learning, and when he came home, they were so excited to help. But still, he said, for the father is asa, for the mother is mutter. Now, this is very schwer, because we learned that the basic yisoid in kibbut avos is no difference, father or mother. But we also see more than the Bachar Shaila, where he calls his parents to help. Here, the parents on their own are doing it, and you can't let the father do it. What's the pshat, and why is there a chilik father or mother? This is a Gemara. But then you learn another Gemara in Kedushin Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. Very interesting story. Two people were sitting under a tree drinking wine. And there must have been a little bigalufin, and they said, let's make a shidduch. Take a cup of wine. My son is mekudesh to your daughter. So the Gemara discusses, of course, that doesn't work, because you have to have the rotzain of the chassan, and the chassan wasn't there. Zog the Gemara, and the Gemara is not talking about kibbut av per se. The Gemara is hilchos kedushin. You'll say the dilma shliach shavia. Maybe Taka the son earlier made his father a shliach. Get me a shidduch. Zog the Gemara, no, that's unthinkable. Lechatzev inish l'shavia avu a shliach. It's unthinkable that a son asks the father to do something for him. Chutzpah. So here we see part 2. Asking is even worse. And I want you to know this is halacha l'maisa quoted by all the poskim. We'll soon see, but I'll just give you a sampling. The Ben Ish Chai in Torah Lishma in his Tshuva Siman Reish Samaches, he asked a question, a shayla. A son has to do something in a different city, and the father happens to be traveling to that city, and the son isn't. And in those days, traveling was a very big tircha. Could the son ask the father, "Are you there any? I'll take care of this." Ve'im timtzim v'im, you're not allowed to. Can you do it b'malka mitzvah? To ask your parent to do a mitzvah for you, but they're doing a mitzvah as well. Zok the Torah Lishma, what's the shayla? The Gemara says in Kedushin Mem Hey Amud Beis, it's a chutzpah to ask a parent to do something for you. You'll say, but I'm asking to do a mitzvah. But Kedushin Mem Hey is also a mitzvah of Kedushin. So here we see, based on the Gemara, asking a parent to do something, that's unthinkable. But Rabbi said is a big chilik, because it seems that regarding a parent doing something for the child, we saw in Lamed Aleph Mabeis, it's only asa if the father's a ben Torah. We'll soon see what that means. But for a mother to do it is okay. This Gemara apparently is asa, father and mother, even not ben Torah. How do I know? The Gemara is talking about a father, but again, the fathers were drinking and making kedushin as they're drinking. It doesn't seem that they were the most, the Haibana people. And the Paiskim say that from the Gemara in Memhei, we see an important halacha. Asking a parent to do something is also both father and mother, even if he's not a ben Torah. And the hezbis pashit. Would you ask the melech to do something for you? Oh, king, you're traveling to another city. Oh, could you do something for me? It's just unthinkable. So now we have two Gemaras. One in Kedushin, Lamed Aleph. You have to not allow parents to do something for you. For a ben Torah, a father ben Torah. And we have Mem Hey Amud Beis, to ask something is unthinkable. The Sefer Yalzu Chasidim, on the Sefer Chasidim, Kuf Nun Beis, he says, be careful, don't ask parents to do something He's chayshish v'achiev chatos. Whatever that means. I mean, I don't think it's literally, but that's the extent of it. And now we have a problem. How do we apply this? It's not a problem. We have to know, how do we apply this halacha l'mais? So I think what gives us guidance is a kosav hashlishi. There's a third chazal, and that's the Rishalmi in the beginning of Peah. Same chazal is also in the Rishalmi Kedushin, Aleph Zayin. The mother of Bishmol came to Beis Medrash, and she was in pain, and she told the Chachamim, you must yell at my son, Ishmael, because he doesn't have kibbut aveim. And the Chachamim were horrified. Their colleague of Bishmol doesn't have kibbut aveim. So they, in all innocence, they asked him, like, what does he do? Tell us. We'll try to help, solve the problem. He goes, you know what he does? When he comes, you want to know what he does to me? It caused me such distress. When he comes home from learning, I want to wash his feet and drink the water as a show of respect for him. And the mechutza that he is, he doesn't let me. That's the Yishalmi. So they called Rabbi Shmuel, they said, listen, Hoyel v'hu ritzoyna, hu kvaida, and as the Pnei Moshe explains in both places, this is a mitzvah of kibbut of, so let her do it. I would think you're mechuyev to let her do it. That's the story, the atrocity of Rabbi Shmuel and his kibbut of aim. Now the emes is, it's a very interesting story, but what Rabbi Shmuel is right. In fact, some say you have to take out that word, she drank the water, because it would be a shtickle of maybe Baal Teshatzu to drink the water. But I guess if we had that Avasa Torah, it would be a very delicious drink. But the question, the pella is, if you're not allowed to let a parent do something for you, how do you allow a mother to wash the son's feet and drink the water? So I would like to say it's Machlekes Bava Yishalmi. But it can't be, because Tosis, Naflam Alpha and Beis, and our Sugya quotes the Yishalmi. So it's not a Machlekes. So Rabbi said the simple teretz, the easy way out is, it's Pashat. Taka, for a father ben Torah, it would be asa to allow him to do that. But the Yishalmi is talking about Rabbi Shmuel's mother. She was a Yiddish mama, but she wasn't a ben Torah. So it's not a Machlekes. Kedusha Lamed Aleph says if the father's a ben Torah, now let him do something. The Yishalmi is talking about a mother. So there's not a stira, father and mother. Und Azoi steht in Beis Yosef in the end of Siman Reish Mem. He points out the stira. He says, what's the problem? Taka, it's mutter because she was a mother. But I would add, if Rabbi Shmuel's father would do that, it would taka be asa. So ma'ar machada v'loi pligi. However, as early as Rabbeinu Yeruchim, one of the Rishonim, and the Beis Yosef quotes Rabbeinu Yeruchim, says beferish, from this Yishalmi we see that it's mutter for both father or mother, if they want, to do this very thing. And the Beis Yosef quotes this Rabbeinu Yeruchim, obviously didn't agree, but this is Rabbeinu Yeruchim. And we would say so much so that it seems that the son was mechuyev to let a parent do this to him. But the question is even deeper. Because you look at the Ran in the back of our Gemara, Daf Lamed Aleph Amid Beis, where it's also to let the son do something for the father, let the father do something for the son if this father's a ben Torah. The Ran says, but if the father really wants to do it, it's mutter, like it says in the Yishalmi, and the Ran concludes, Mikana Tolamad Kain Afla Aviv. From the Yishalmi, we see even a father's mutter to do anything. Now the Achrayim say, you want to say it's mutter, you could say what you want. Where do you see from the Yishalmi it's mutter for the father if the Yishalmi is only talking about his mother? So Rabbi said, here comes, I think, what's most important Yisayid of today. One question really answers the other. If you ever wonder, if the father wants to do something for his son, why can't the son allow him? So what is a ben Torah? So says the Tais Riazokin on the page in Kedushin, his lashon is, Lefamim, he will have chalish zadas. In other words, he really doesn't want to do it, but he has to do it. The Levush in Sif Chav Hey says he's not doing it mitzayni hatoiv. In other words, let's be practical. The father's a ben Torah, a Talmid Chacham, and his son is a chuchikol of 16, 17 years old, and he's calling him, bring this, do this. He's doing it, but he doesn't really want to do it. That's a bizayon for the father. Don't you see me as a father, as a Talmid Chacham? So that's the issa. But now let's talk about something like this Rabbi Shmuel's mother, an extraordinary Abbas HaTorah, that she came to Beis Medrash hysterical, and the Chachamim was frightened. You know, she wasn't playing a game. She really meant it so sincerely that when she told her of her rebellious son, they said, really, what's going on? And she felt it's an ava on his part that he doesn't let her drink the water after washing her feet. I imagine if they would give out a questionnaire, what is your greatest pleasure in life? She would write down, washing my son's feet and drinking the water. So there's no question about it that this was very sincere. But it's more than just sincere. This would be the true expression of kibbud of if he let her do it. Let me add biyasa bi or biyasa gishmak. We'll soon see that for bizayon of a parent, mechila doesn't help. But that wasn't the heta in this case. She sincerely believed that if he would allow her to wash his feet and drink the water, that would be kibbud of aim. Ritzayni shel adam zui kvoide, as the Yishalmi is quoted as saying. And if you look in the Chidah in Shirei Bracha Sif Katan Ches, he mamish says to the Farish, even though bizayon doesn't help, this wasn't bizayon for her. This was her innermost ratzon. So, oy bazoi, taka for a child to allow a parent to do something, a ben Torah is also. But if you are certain that that is ritzaynai, that is kvoidai, then you have to let the father do it. But again, the Beis Yosef held, no, forget about the cheshbainis. A parent, a father cannot do this to the son. How do we paskin? Good questions. Machlokes Ran and Beis Yosef. So the Mechaber in Sif Chaf Hey just says it's mutter for a mother to do something and not for a father. Obviously, the Mechaber is paskening not like the Ran, but like the Beis Yosef, which is not surprising because the Mechaber is the Beis Yosef. But if you look back in the Ber HaGoyla, he says this Mechaber is based on the Gemara in Kedushin and the Yishalmi. So the Mechaber, the Beis Yosef, did not go for this heta of Ritzayni Shel Adam Zui Kvoidai. It would only be mutter either for a mother or a father, not a ben Torah. But, as I told you, the Iran is Mekel, the Rebbeinu Yerucham is Mekel, you look in the Mukhi Yosef, the Marshal in Kedushin Aleph Samachei, and basically, most poskim seem to accept this kula. Now, it's interesting because the Chidah in Birkei Yosef, the end of Sif Resh Mem, quotes a Pri Chadash who's machma like the Mechaber. Yet, the Yabiyah Oyman Chelik Zayin, Simon Tezayin, who typically goes with Poiskei Svarad, he ignores the Mechaber and the Birkei Yosef and the Pri Chadash, and he passes like the Ran. So I think we're pretty comfortable to say that indeed we could be maker like the Ran. That Taka, a son should not allow a father ben Torah to do something for him. But if you are certain that that is Ritzayni Shel Adam Zui Kvoidai, we have a heta. Now, Lamaisa, we have to realize, as the Yishalmi in the beginning of Peah describes kibbud of, with the following words, it's chamura sheba chamurais. Now, we don't like these superlatives, the biggest mitzvah, the biggest aveira. That's not the way he talks, because kala kechamura are important. But the Yishalmi does say kibbud of is chamura sheba chamurais. So we have to find a little more to be saimach on. So I want to make 2 points. First of all, the Teres Rafal, that was the Shver Rab Chaim Briska and Simon Yud Aleph, he has an interesting observation. The Rif, Rush, and Rambam don't mention our Gemara in Kedushin Lamed Aleph. Chaba does, but none of the Gedolei Rishonim. So he has a cheshbon that the Gemara is only according to Abaya, that holds that Rav Shemachal HaKvoidoi, the Mechila does not help. Okay, Av or Rav, but L'didan, Mechila helps. You could allow the parent to do something, which is a chiddush, but that's what he says. Also, what's much more negaya to the Pashat Pshat, the Ein Yaakov, on the Ein Yaakov, written by the Shvus Yaakov, and Rav Sternbuch and Chelik Dal, the Reish Tes of Mechavan to the same Yisoid, they both learn a whole different shot in the Gemara. When is there an issa to let the father do something, only the heta for the mother? When the father and mother are both there. So the father does something, shouldn't the son say, Tati, you're going to go learn your time, let mommy do it. If the son asks the father for something and the mother's there, that's a bizayon for the father. You're equating me to the mother. So Zakti and Yaakov and Rav Sternbuch, the only issa on the father is when the father or mother could do it, and the son allows the father to do it. That's a bizayon to the father. But if only the father could do it, that would be mutter. No, so like this, in most cases, if the father's driving him from Lakewood to bring the package, the mother's not coming anyhow, maybe it's not awesome. But as Sternbuch says, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say this. But at least we have something to add, sort of a sniff. But I want to mention another point. The Meiri in Kedushin Lamed Aleph says even if it's mutter to allow the parent to do something, initially you should show reluctance. Say, no, don't bother. If they want to do it, but initially be mesarev. That's the Meiri, and the Makne in Kedushin Lamed Aleph Mabeis proves this Meferish Gemara. Even if it's mutter to allow a parent or a Rebbe, Max talking about a Rebbe, to do something, first show a hesitancy. Why? How could you let a melech do something for you? If they want to do it, you could let them in case when it's mutter. What's the pshat? Maybe it's to show that I don't want you to do it. Maybe it's to test them if it's belev shalim. Because if they don't want to do it, they'll say, okay, you don't want is nisht. You're giving them a way out. But the chiddush of this Meiri is, because we know, mitzat sheni, maybe you shouldn't be mesarv when a parent wants to do something. Don't remember the Gemara in Bav Metzia, Peizayin, and Psachim, ein mesarvin legadol? No, ein lechagadol, yaisemi ave v'imai. So what do you mean? Why are you refusing? The father wants to do it, let him do it. But that's the chiddush. Part of the kibbut of is initially refuse. Oy bazoi, we have a shtickle heta. If you are certain that Ritzayin Shladam Zui Kvaidai, we have a Rishalmi and Rishayim to be Saimachan. But l'chayr there might be more to this. Why don't we say, in all cases, even if it's not necessarily Kvaidai Mamish, why don't we say, Taka, if I am certain that the parents are Moichel, then it's mutter. Because that's the basic klal. Rav Aviv ve'ein b'moichel al kvaydam, kvaydei machel. So that's a good question, but the answer is even better. Because as we said from the Riazakin and the Levush, that the reason why it's asa is that it's not belev shalom. No, if it's not belev shalom, it's not a mechila. So the whole heta falls apart. That's the simple pshat. And you look in the Yad Raman, in our Sugin Kedushin Lamed Aleph, he says, even though of shemachal kvaydei machel, but here it's a problem that you may be chol shadaiti and they're not really moicha b'leiv shalim. But Rabbi Zev is a more fundamental yisoid, because the Rivash, one of the Rishayim in Siman Reish Chaf, he says even though of or Rabbi Shemachal Akvoide Machal, but Bezoyin Mechil doesn't help. And there was the chiluk between not helping a parent, that's kibud, that Mechila helps. But the doing an act of bezayin, Mechila doesn't help. A person can't call his father by his first name because the father doesn't mind. That's bezayin. And the hezb is very pashut. If you look at the Maram Shik in Yeridei Siman Reish Yud Ches, he explains why is it that kvaydei machol? Because the parent has the right to say ki'ilu is kabalti. But when you're mavaza parent, you can't say ki'ilu is kabalti. You mavaza him. You could a sheval tasa. You could say yesh mi'ayin as if I did it, but you can't erase an act of bezayin, and that's why even if kvaydei machol but not bezayin, and if we're assuming that asking a parent to do something or allowing the parent to do something is a form of bezayin, which it is, then mechila won't help. And if you look in the Marsha on our sugi, he asked this question, and what about mechila? Zok there. What he means to say, I think, is very pashut. First of all, he might not be a moichel b'leiv shalom, but more than that, you hurt the parent. So what are you saying? He's moichel? The damage was done. And that's why Lamaisa, the Poskim say, for this Mechila won't help. But there is another interesting heta, which is based on a different Gemara. And again, it's interesting how the Poskim use Shas for every Shaila, but this one specifically. This is a different Gemara in a different context in Saita Daf Memtes, talking about the time they will live b'tahara. Rav Huna found a certain tamar, a date, and he gave his son to eat, and he was very happy that he accepted it. In other words, he was living b'tahara, they were able to touch the fruit. That's what the Gemara is talking about. So the Achrayim wonder, forget about tum and tahara. How's a father allowed to serve a son? That's what the Gemara Kedushin asks. So the Tshuva Shar Shimon answers, there's a difference between serving or giving. A parent ought to give a child a candy, a lollipop, but no one say that's sheirus. And the embassy, you look in the Lashon of the Shulchan Aruch, it's an asa l'shareis as benoi. Rashi's Lashon in Kedushin is to do avoida. And I want to tell you, it's interesting, the Lashon of the Gemara Kedushin, our original Gemara, is when I came home from yeshiva, Avi madli leikasa. Now the embassy is the literal title of the word madli, the li, and I once saw this, and one of the Mefarshim say this, is like a Lashon of drawing water. The li, to draw water. Maybe the Gemara meant that the father drew the water from the well. Oh, that's a Maisa Sheirus, a Maisa Avdus. Even if you learned Kipshutai, but he filled up a cup and he brought it. But just giving over something, maybe it's not part of the Issa. The Shraga Hamer in Chelik Dal Sim Chavav, he wonders if parents give a child a cup of tea, he shouldn't take it. So he says a Dava Chodosh, but he says this Yisoid, maybe the Issa is Sheirus or Avdus, Avoida, but a cup of tea is Mutter. Even though I must tell you, in the Archas Rabbeinu, Reb Chaim Kanievsky is quoted as saying his father once gave him a cup of tea, and he asked the Chazon Ish what to do, and the Chazon Ish says, don't drink it. You'll be Oivan Issa. Now again, I know, I'm not saying that's what people do, but that's what the Chazon Ish looked at the Chamur Shebechamurais. But the point is, we could hopefully say, if it's done b'leiv shalem, and it's a minor act, maybe it doesn't go into the Issa of l'shareis. The Torah Lishma, again, the Ben Ish Chai in Siman Ayin Reish has an interesting story, where someone gave a father something to eat, and the father right away gave it to the son. I go to Tata, give it to the child. So the child asked the Ben Ish Chai, can I take it? Or maybe I should first refuse, so my father will say I don't want, and then I'll see if he wants to give it to me. But then again, Ein Masar for Legadol. So the Torah Lishma discusses that question. But he doesn't seem to be concerned, how could the father give something to the son? Because maybe giving something is not included in the Yissa. But what seems to be another important heta, and this is the Sefer Chassidim in Siman Tavkuf Samach Beis, he discusses something that sounds familiar to some of us. The son is going somewhere, and the father is worried that he's not safe. Maybe he's walking late at night in a bad neighborhood, and the father, as the Lashon is, in tsar that his son is in danger. So, the son knows that the father will be happy if the son says, Tati, please come with me, or take me, I'm afraid to go alone. Of Sameach, if the son would say, please take me, because the father's worried, then it's mutter for the son to ask his father, please take me. That's a maisa of taking me is not a simple action. Obviously, the Sefer Chassidim learned that fits into the Yishalmi, Ritzayni Shaladam, Zui Kvaydai. The son's walking late at night and the father's worried. So the son could say, would you like to take me? The father goes, I would love to take you. He's driving the son. But if it's the lesser of two evil, otherwise he's worried. Or a mother sees a child's wearing the buttons tore off. So of course, the child knows the mother is not comfortable seeing him as such. He could ask the mother, please sew it on. Now, Avada, I should mention, there's no Issa La Yilbash if the son sews on his own button, not like a Maisa of Nashim. I told the Bacham, do things on your own, but if a person needs it, you could ask the mother to do it. Another good example is a father, we had this Shiloh before Pesach, a father giving his son a haircut. Now, it's a respectable occupation, but then again, the Rambam Paskins, a barber can't become a melech. Ein Sapan Asamelech. Haman was a barber. But a father should give a child a haircut. So the Paiskim discussed this, if this is really right. The Paiskim wonder if that's a Maisa Abdus, a father giving a son a haircut. But the emphasis is during COVID, certainly when there was no other choice, and the father wants to see his child going to Pesach looking like looking proper. Or sometimes fathers give sons haircuts to save money, or they shouldn't have to go to a barber, wait online, whatever the case is. But hopefully if it fits into this Yerushalmi, or this Sefer Chassidim, the father really wants, and he's sameach to do it, then you have a heta. A father and son are in business together. So imagine if the son can never ask the father to do something. The business won't work. So you have to use a Sefer Chassidim. A different category, if the son can't do it on his own. Lamashal, the son is sick. The parents help the son. They bring things. They bring him food. No one will say that's awesome. I think the point has to be that something that the son could do it, and he's showing a lack of kavod or lack of moira, that's the issa. I saw Reb Chaim, the Nissen Karelitz, in the Chut HaShani Amud Shin Tezayin, says to ask your parents to get involved to help you get your child into yeshiva, or get some information for shidduch. To use the father's protects you, right? So the child can't do it on his own. Now, it's not easy for the father to assert himself, but that fits into the Sefer Chassidim's heta. He doesn't have another choice. Or what about a simple shaila? You can't go to your parents for Shabbos, right? That means the parents have to go shopping before Shabbos and set up the room and bake and cook. Is that mutter? The teretz is that there's something that the parents enjoy doing and the child can't do it on his own. Then avada, the parents could host the children. Now, of course, this should be pashut, but when the child is there, let him help as much as he can. Bachan Yeshiva asked me, I was surprised, he goes, can I let my mother take my plate when I finish eating? I said, can you let your mother? I never let my mother do that. I don't think, she doesn't let you. She says, you're a guest, so tell you not a guest. I'm not a guest in my own parents' home. But it's unthinkable. Your mother takes away your plate. Yeah, but she doesn't want. So I tell her, we learned in yeshiva, keep it over aim. That's all. Ritzayni shel adam zui kvoide, or kvoide shel adam zui ritzayni. That's my ratzon. Say whatever you want, But a mother should take a child's plate. So it's unthinkable. If the child will drop the plate 10 times in a row, his mother might say, I'm moichel Teves. But do it right and then be accommodating, and that's keep it up. So the fact that he's guest by his parents' home is not a heta for keep it up. But the hachana that goes into the Shabbos, that is done by the parents, and that's part of Hachnasas Orchim. There definitely has to be some type of a heta, what parents do for children, which is part of chinuch, part of raising children. The chinuch in Mitzvah Lamed Gimel speaks about the mitzvah of kibbutz. He says you have to be makir toiv, yegiyas boy, yagabu kama yegiyas bekatnusay. Now that's kibbutz. That's what raising children is. It's not coincidental. Chazal found one word for children, and that's amaleinu elu habanim. You ask Chazal, what's one word to describe you? He says nachas, right? But parents know better. Amaleinu elu habanim. Now, is that a violation of the Gemara in Kedushin Amud Aleph? There has to be the following distinction. Asking parents to do something is wrong, but normal parents raising children, that's what a parent is there for. I said it, put it this way. A parent are not allowed to serve children, but parents are allowed to raise children. Whatever goes into Gidul Banim, that's mutter. That, of course, is something that's very sensitive. The Sefer Chassidim in Simon Kuf and Beis, one of the Rishonim, writes, starts off the following: Ritzayni shel adam zui kvoide, afilu kiberav, shem loikein afilu tzadik gomer la yuchal linatzl min haveira. Will never avoid this haveira of having parents do things. Keitzad av veimu yeshito leyakais ayim zegulu uvekama devarim she'eni adam yachal yishamet mehem. How could a child allow parents to do anything for him? So what I think he means to say basically is that normal raising of children is okay. Or what the parents enjoy doing, it fits into the Yushalmi. It's what has become, unfortunately, the kabed as bincha as bitecha, that's the avla. But what's normal parents, I wouldn't say the word obligation, the parents are not obligated to do anything. What's normal parents' privilege of raising children, and especially if the parents enjoy it, that would be part of normal raising of children. Now, we have to be careful. Don't forget what the Elza Hasidim says, requesting something is a chayiv chatos. You have to have a little seichel also. I did see Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, Rabbi Yashiv, and Rav Steinberg, Zechariah Levracha. They all said normal parental duties. A mother washes laundry, and a father goes shopping. That's not what the Gemara in Kedushin asked. But of course, it has to be defined properly. And I'll give you a few examples. For a child to call up at home, he finished the chasna, or he finished the chagiga, or they finished the play in school, pick me up. How can a child call parents late at night, pick me up? We saw from the Sefer Hasidim, unless the parents are worried and they have simcha of doing it, you can't ask matriach a parent to come pick me up. What should they do? So, first of all, if they could walk, let them walk. Find a ride. But, it's just unthinkable that just, pick me up and the fathers jump out of bed and pick up his child. It's something that is maybe done, but it's certainly not right. There's a sefer, Choshev sefer, the Meir Sharm, a big sefer about Kibbutz Av, we printed recently. In Simelan Bates, he was a Ben Doire, he was a contemporary of the Beis Yosef, about a few hundred years ago. So he has a lot of important Yonam in Kibbutz Av. But he starts off and he describes the problem so beautifully. He says, parents, out of a gaguim b'safnukin, from the pleasure of children, they do things and they don't see it as a chesaron of Kibbutz Av, because they interpret this as Ritzayin Shel Adam Zui Kvoidi. So therefore, he says, it's acceptable, but he says, at the same time, the children have to be careful, la'ayin u'ladagdei k'chut ha'sayra, not to allow parents to do things that are unacceptable. See, in other words, you have to have seichel. And al b'kaimas elu, Shlomo Melech b'chachmasei tzavach, ha'chacham eina b'roishai, v'aksil b'choyshech hoylech. In other words, the parent has to do what they could do, but children have to be on guard to make sure that they live their lives kabed and moira. So to apply this more specifically, I think we should say the following. Asking from parents something is more chama than allowing them. Allowing them, we saw a chiluk between a father, ben Torah, and a mother. Asking is asa from both a father and a mother. If a person has to ask for something, we saw the Gemara, Artsui artzi kamei is mutter. The Morah says in Kedushin, V'dilma artsui artzi kamei, which means don't ask directly, hint to them. I need something. I don't have any good clothing for the next week in yeshiva. So the Gemara in Kedushin Memhei says that's mutter. Now it bothered me. How could the Morah say that's mutter? You're not allowed to let parents do something. So how could you hint? What does it help hinting? Teretz is beautiful. Because when are you now going to let a parent do something, we said in Daf Lamed Alpha Beis, that's only by a Ben Torah. Memhei is talking about a mother or father. It's not a Ben Torah. No. Then Taka, letting them is no problem. It's only asking. Once the Issa is asking, the same Gemara as a Heta, Artsuya Artse Kamei. So it's better to sort of drop a hint when possible. If it doesn't work, and you feel that the parents very much want to do it, it's their simcha, then we have the heta of Ritzayin Zui Kvoide. So let's apply this more specifically. A parent that goes shopping for children, it's understood, that's what parents are there for, but I want to mention what sometimes are excessive demands, and parents know what I'm talking about. The dreaded visiting day of camp. The children call home, they have a list, as long as the goal is, they need this, they need this, they need that. This has to stop. Parents are not shopping. They're driving 4 hours in the traffic to get there, and 4 hours back. They have to have a week before of shopping. These are things that are really inappropriate. And before a chasana, unreasonable demands of chasana or kala of parents, that's a violation of this issa. Besides that you're making them do what they can't do, they can't afford to do. But this is lacking the basic ish imav of Torah. That's not kippur. That's not moira. You go to a parents for a Shabbos, the parents want, but sometimes the last minute, they call it in English, you crash your parents for Shabbos. Literally. I'm coming for Shabbos. The mother can't say no, but it's a tremendous burden. Or you've fallen for a supper. You've fallen for a supper, I'm coming in a half hour, these things are unacceptable. If they want, they appreciate it. You're not giving them a choice, and it's probably that they don't want. So again, b'tzeichel, babysitting, another example. Babysitting has become, part of a mother's duty to babysit for her grandchildren. Who status? Pam once said, you go to a chasana and you ask parents to babysit. No, halbatzar. But you have to stay for the mitzvah tans. And then you come home 2 a.m, the parents are waiting up. I mean, isn't that an obvious violation of this issa? And as if it's not bad enough, what's worse, the children go on vacation. Who watches their children? Grandparents. It's mamish. Hu halach lemanuchais v'isanu azav lanochais. Like a Levaya Rachmana Litzlan. It's unthinkable. You want to go on vacation, give it to a sibling, a friend, or don't go. Send your parents on vacation. I say, in America, the minig is when on a birthday you give the child a present. Al pi Torah, the child should buy a parent a present. You put up with me another year. Thank you very much. What did he do for you? You have to give him a present. It's the same attitude. All these things are, with reason. Parents are, sometimes don't mind babysitting for their einiklach, but it has to be with a cheshbon. Come late is unforgivable. Pick me up. All these things are something that the kabed as bincha as bitecha attitude has snuck into our culture, and it's obviously very wrong. A son asks me this, his father goes to a shir, and his father picks him up and drives him to the shir. No, that's the father's ratzon, he's going anyhow. The father feels it a covet, and the father feels his vulam. These things I can understand, but to drive me, pick me up, or sometimes a child is not going to night seder, and the father realizes he's not going to go. I'll take him, he'll go. No. So that's like the Sefer Chassidim. The father has a tsar if he doesn't do it, right? He wants a boy to go. Years ago, I remember Shimon Schwab said this, I remember his lashon, a father is not a car service driver, and a mother is not a maid or a chef. So then we were laughing. But this is a Gemara in Kedushin. This is Lamed Aleph Mem Beis, Mem Hey Amid Beis, a Mechab in the end of Siman Reish Mem. It's Pashut. These are not a Nefatzaitische Hashkafa. Our original question, where a boy is in a yeshiva or a camp and he needs things, he left his bathing suit home. What you do? You shouldn't swim for 8 weeks. So again, if he could arrange a friend, pick it up from his house, that's better. If he could drop a hint, I forgot my bathing suit in the house, you have a Gemara Mem Hey Amid Beis. If it doesn't work and the parents are okay with it and they'll be happy, you could ask in a way, again, mother better than father, but something that they are okay with it, and it's not a big tircha, and it's not an unreasonable request, it's not a shopping list, but it's a bathing suit or yisvarim. These things are included in what we mentioned earlier. Someone asked me, can he ask his mother pass the salt? I says, I wouldn't do that. But how do I do it? I say, get up and walk around your mother. Don't stick your hand through your mother. That's also wrong. And do it with derech eretz. Yeah, Punk recently, he told me he was once at someone's house and the boy asked the mother, Ma, pass the salt. He says, the first in my life I heard such a lashon. Ma, pass the salt? You pass salt to the ma, not fakir. So you don't want to disturb the mothers. I also don't. You walk around. You don't stick your hand through. You make it pleasant for both. I heard of a chacham leiv. I'm envious of him. He goes, picks up his parents. They're elderly, brings them to his house, and they help him make the kugel for Shabbos. It takes him 3 times longer to pick them up and bring them. They go very slowly. They walk slowly. Now, why is he doing it? He doesn't need the help to make the kugel. He wants them to feel active and part of it. And they're still functional, and they love it. They look forward to it. This is the once a week they have an outing. Remind me of the Gemara in Kedusha, the end of Lamed Aleph, Yesh matchine berachayim umeivia lo'ilam haba. He doesn't do it because he needs the help. Again, it takes him 3 times longer picking them up and bringing them back and forth than the help that they do. But give them a sense of purpose. They're important. I heard another story of a Chacham Leiv, that he hired his father to be the bookkeeper in his business. And at night, he corrects all the mistakes every night. He pays his father to make mistakes. Right? These are people that have an understanding of the oimik of kibbut of ha'em. Whenever it means asking a parent to do something because that's the parent's benefit, to give them a sense of accomplishment, and tavalecha bracha. But b'derech klal, we have to shy away from these things. Now, the haircut, the question of a father giving a child a haircut, I think I could say I understand why the shaila is asked, but today it's been understood. They want to do it themselves. It's easier. Maybe it's less costly. You have a few kids, line them up, and you make haircuts. So that's something that has become part of what the parents do. What was more of an issue, which is part of a different share, hopefully we'll do it in a future share, is a child giving a father a haircut. So this, as we know, there's a frightening Gemara in Sanhedrin of Peidal Amid Beis, where Rav had a splinter, or Gemara says a different story about Marbe Darvina had a pus, and they would not, their parent had either splinter or a pus pimple, and they would not let their son take out the splinter or take out the pus, because they might cause the parent to bleed, and causing a parent to bleed is a violation, Rachman son of Makkah of Ve'imoy. I don't want to say the rest of the pasuk. When Azay state in Shulchan Aruch, Reish from Aleph Siv Beis. Based on this, so you look in the Moshe Zakain, one of the Rishonim, on the pasuk in Kedoshim, the Leket Yosha, in page 37 in Yeridea, and the Stipler, Chaim Kanievsky quotes his father, the Stipler, that would not let the son give a haircut to the father, because he might make the father bleed. Like a Yosha, actually Lashon is, he wouldn't let his son cut his beard. So maybe talk in those days, I don't know, they didn't have shavers, but maybe cutting the beard shaving might have made bleeding. The truth is, today our haircut machines don't typically cause bleeding, unless the father has sensitive skin. But typically haircuts, I saw all the Heintige Paiskim, the Ber Moshe Tshuva, the Shevet HaKossi, unless, someone was more, if you do a square back in the back, which you use the razor part, but typically that's not the real problem of bleeding, because it doesn't bleed. But moving on to our third question of talking to a parent in first person versus third person, like you, or say Tati. So the emphasis in Svara, if you talk to a Rav and a Rosh Hashiva, you say the Rosh Hashiva, the Rav, why should you say the Tata? Why should you say you? But Lamaisa the Chsam Soif and Parshas Toldos on the pasuk Kum Na Avi point out something incredible. When Yaakov and Esav were speaking to Yitzchak, Yaakov said Kum Na Avi, first person, Noichach. Esav said Yakum Avi, third person, Nista. Esav more covered than Yaakov. Zok the Chsam Soif Adav Nifla, quoting Nassan Adla, that there has to be a closeness between father and son. And he says something I wouldn't say. Just like if you atem adveikim b'Hashem olekeichem, there has to be a dveikis between a Rebbeinu Shalom and a Yid. So too father and son. And I would add, how do we talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom? Baruch Atah. So therefore, Yaakov Dafka spoke first person. Esav kederech hagoyim, there was a distance. It was two people, the father and the son. It wasn't one. So he spoke third person. So the Chsam Sofer is saying, Dafka, talk first person to a parent. Forget about the formalities. And it needs a big hezbah in Svara, because isn't that more covered? Isn't that Morah covered? The Taz and Reish Mem Beis Yudalet points out when you talk to a Rebbe, it has to be in third person. So why is a parent worse? So I saw the Aruch HaShulchan and Reish Mem Beis Lamed Ches seems to be bothered by this. He says, in the olden days, they used to speak to Rebbe first person, Shalom Alecha Rebbe. But today the minig is third person. So why then parents, we speak in first person? Because that's the minig, and if you change, Einu Element Amatmiyim. And the Chazon Ish is also quoted, speaking to parents in first person dafka. So you have in history, you have a Yaakov versus Esav, you have a Chsam Sofer, an Aruch HaShulchan, and the Chazon Ish. But I could say that after learning the sugya, I could understand why some have a minig talk to a parent in third person. If you're doing it out covered, it's not richuk. It's a kibud b'dibur. It's a moira by showing that respect. And I can understand why people do it. But again, the minig, and my minig is we talk first person. My shver's father, Olav Shalom, when someone once spoke to him in third person, he said, "Mit der Tata, mit der Zayda, tut man sich nicht, ehrt man sich." I don't know if he made up his own expression, but do, nicht ehr. So, that's the minig in our families. Rather, by my shver allowed my children to talk to him in third person. So maybe to a Zayd is different. I don't know if he's still with his father, but anyhow. But certainly, I could understand the minig Yisrael to talk in first person, like the Chsam Sofer and the Aruch HaShulchan, right? But those that have a minig third person, I can understand where they're coming from, and they shouldn't change from the minig. What's a very important part of Kibbur and Moira, the Chayodam in Samach Zayin, Siv Gimel, quoting a Charedim, and this is Al Zeh Yidu B'Kol HaDoivim, he, after describing what Kibbur and Moira is all about, but he said the Ikka of Kibbur of is you have to respect your parents' belief. It can't be go through the motions, And the Lashon is, if you do something just because you're doing it, but deep down you look down to them, that is, and I quote, if nivza be'einav, that would be chas v'shalom bepiv uv'svasav kibduni v'li b'rachik mimenu. And the only way to make the mitzvah is to see the gedolim v'nichbodei aretz. Af shebe'enei shar b'nei adam einem chashuvim klal. That's the Chayodam quoting the Charedim. Now, the emphasis, I can understand that, because part of Morah is a melech. You don't look down on a melech. But the obvious question is, Ma'yasa haben v'lo yechta, literally. His parents are simple people. And especially in our dor, we have an ach shadara, that children sometimes outshine their parents. I think Sam Rav once said, our children not only are smarter than us, but they're even older than us. So those type of people, how do they deal with this Chayodam? But what makes it even more challenging, Reb Chaim Shulevitz in the Sichos Musa twice, in Kuf Nun Ches and Shin Nun Zayin, page Shin Nun Ches, Kuf Nun Ches, Shin Nun Zayin, he said, quoting his father, you only become a mitzvah if you find the parents being as Gedoylei Hador, at least in one midah. So, how do we deal with this? So on a simple level, I think there's the emes, Adam Nifal Kafi Puloisav. I always think that Kibbut HaMorah is a package. If you do something to show kavod, that creates a moira. And I tell the Baruch, stand up for your parents. Why? Because the Torah says so. Why are you smarter than the Torah? I've been moichel, because you know why? When the first time you stand up for them, they get suspicious. Maybe he needs money. Something. So stand up and say, I learned it in the pasuk. You say, blame it on me. But why should you? When my children stood up for me, I felt very uncomfortable. I asked Rapam, he goes, why do you feel uncomfortable? It's a mitzvah deraisa. They'll live long. What's different? Why not? If you stand up for parents long enough, it makes that kibbut, that moira. If you constantly trying to give parents, you see the malchus in them, you will see the malchus in them eventually. But the emphasis could be more pashut. Imagine someone is stuck in a burning building. Mamash, his moments on this world are mamash limited. And someone is moisen nefesh, jumps in and pulls him out and saves him. Won't he have an everlasting respect and covet for this yid who's moisen nefesh saved my life? And how about if you have parents that devoted their lives for you? Damelenu elo abanim kam yigias yaga avi v'imi. Kibbut Av is all about being makir toiv to parents, like the chinuch says. He didn't say mashlim toiv, because a parent can never be repaid. You can never repay parents what they did. At least be makir toiv, at least recognize it, acknowledge it. But when someone sees the parent as the provider, besides bringing him into this world, but just a constant devotion, then they're gedolim. They're gedolim and chesed, they're putting up with you. But that should give us the right attitude. So that's the way a person could come to this kiyum of seeing a meat in them. They're devoted, they're wonderful, and then the more you give, the more you see that gadlus. Let me say achrein chav, maybe achrein hichbid, is the question I began. Should a child see his parent as his best friend? Should a parent play that role? So the emphasis is, this is a very challenging question, because it doesn't sound right if you look at the basics. Ish imav aviv tirou, and the Rambam and the way the Rambam says that's like your melech, and the Charedim says like a melech and a malka. And you say best friend? Are my best friend? The Sapporna said that's why you have to have a mitzvah of tiro. It shouldn't be li by gaspa. And you say best friend? It's interesting that the Rabbeinu Bachai and the Ramban both ask, why did the Torah say specifically what kibbut hamoira is? It just says tiro and kabed. So they both say that it's just like the covet you have to bari olam. Hukshu kvaidam, hukshu mayram. The way you treat bari olam, that's the way you treat your parents. So how could you say that's a best friend? It's a ma'aseh pella of understanding what a parent is. And I saw this printed, I think it's a mitzvah lefarsim, this in the Dama to Oil Yaakov. You heard this from the Einikel of Chaim Kanievsky Zayin Gesund. The Stipler was once together with his daughter, Rebbetzin Barzam, and she told me, Chaim has a terrible backache. So Stipler says, really? Okay. And he left the house, and he goes to Chaim's house. He says, Chaim, how you feeling? He says, perfect. Chaim, how you feeling? Perfect. I don't believe it. Chaim, lay down. He tells Rebbetzin Kanievsky, boil up some oil, olive oil. The Stipler had his own refuahs. He's going to give Reb Chaim a massage because he has to heal his bad back. And he does that, and his Chaim, no kail today. You must lay on your back, don't move until I give you okay, you have to get better. Okay. He goes home, and his daughter, Stipe's daughter, asked Stipe, where'd you go? Because I went to Reb Chaim to take care of his back. He goes, no, I didn't mean my brother Reb Chaim. I meant my son-in-law Chaim Luft has a bad back. So Stipe says, and he ran back to Reb Chaim. And what do you think Reb Chaim was? Laying on his back, not moving. Now, he didn't ask a question from the beginning of this ordeal till the end. That's what a tata is. So, is that do you want to say you have to be a best friend? But Re'ez Apella, we just learned, it's love and if, like Yisimenu la'ov l'paroi, Yoi said that Pari made me a of. What is of? He didn't make him a father. Rashi says, chaver u'patroin. So Rashi is saying the one word to describe a father is a chaver. Or better yet, in Parashas Re'eh Yud Gimel Zayin, ki yasischa achicha, oy ri'acha asher kenafshecha. Zok Rashi, ze avicha. Ri'acha asher kenafshecha is your father. The Chavetz Chaim's son writes in Dugma Midarki Avi, on Belamed Hey, in Our Prince, that his father didn't give us that Morah attitude. He was like to us, like Kareyu Ka'ach, like a friend and a brother. So now we're confused. And the emphasis, the fact that we're supposed to talk in first person, also gives that feeling, Kareya Ka'ach. So the answer, Rabbi say, it's not a steer, both are true. A child has to have a parent. There has to be an authority. There has to be someone that will tell him what's right and wrong. In fact, you look at the Chavetz Chaim's son. So he never was makbid on his kavod. But when he saw us doing something wrong to someone else, he would smack us. Yeah, he patched them. That was the best friend. But they knew the best friend is patching them. And he writes that his father was never Masiach Das from them. Hishgiach aleinu yoimam v'layla. At all times he was focused on us. That's the beautiful blend. A child needs a parent. I'm still traumatized. I was a young child. There was one of our neighbors, supposed to be from a Yid, and he insisted that children call him by the first name. Remember, he'd say, Ari, a little 5-year-old, Ari, his father. A child will never grow if his father's an Ari or a Yossi. There has to be a Morah. There has to be Ish Imavav Tero. There has to be a certain relationship, a certain pachad that this father cares about me and is going to set me straight. Chaysech Shiftoi, Saina B'nai, says the Chacham Mikol Adam. But then again, it's also true, there has to be a loving relationship. If a child can't confide in his parents, there's something wrong with the relationship. Rav Schwab pointed out, the first time you find the word Reya is by Yehuda and his good friend, Chira Adulami. Reya Adulami, the pasuk says. Well, how do you know he was the good friend, the best friend? Because Yehuda was able to tell him his innermost secrets, his terrible durchfall. So I was thinking both are true. If you have the Morah, if there's only Morah, then and there's no closeness, if there's no ahava, if the child doesn't see my father, my best friend, and he cares about me, if it's only Morah, it won't go. Volba writes in the Alei Shur, it's Amid Reish Samach Aleph, there's nothing that ruins a parent-child relationship like excessive Morah. That's true. But there has to be a friendship. It has to be synthesized. It has to be mixed. Who knows? I'm telling you, I'm in chinuch long enough. How many children could have been saved had they had a relationship with the parents, had they been able to talk to them? But then again, who knows how many children were ruined because their father was an Ari. Let everything, do what you want, okay, you're happy, I'm happy. Those are the victims of Yedei Noshim Rachmaniyis Bishtu Yaldehem. And I never quote sources out of Torah, but I saw this in a sefer. I forgot where I saw it, but I wrote it down. Again, I'm moich for the source, but I think it's an unbelievable insight. The sefer quoted the diary of Anna Frank. She was a Yiddish girl, not from, and she wrote during the Second World War. She was hiding, but it's such an insight without Torah Nachtetzu. She says, writes about her mother. I always was complaining about you because we didn't have a relationship, and suddenly now it's clear what you were missing. And she writes, Mommy, you told us that you are our friend, but a friend can't take a place of a mother. I needed a mother, an example I could follow. I wanted to respect you, and you became my friend. Stellt sich vor, on Torah. This a child understands they need a parent. They need a melech and a malka. The melech and the malka with that loving relationship is the goal. Do you ever wonder? The Chachamim came and they were horrified. Rabbi Shmuel doesn't have kibbut of. What did he do? He didn't allow his mother to wash his feet and drink the water. Why didn't the Chacham say, Mama Leilim, that's not right. Why are you letting him do that? Why do you want to do that? Maybe this is a lesson. It could be such a ahava, such an unbridled ahava is okay. But that's where produces a Rabbi Shmuel. When there's a Morah and a kibbut together. Look, he hesitated. He was worried. The ahava is fine. The ahava with the Morah will give us the nachas from our children. I got to talk to you all.
I'd like to thank our Rabbi Zev Smith for the wonderful shir. Also thanking Mishpachas Kalish, sponsoring today's shir Nishmas, the Heilige Ksav Sofer, the son of the Chasam Sofer, the Yoter Yisrael, Rabbi Avram Shmuel ben Yomam ben Rav Moshe Zatzal. Rabbi said today is the first day of Shovavim, will be L'chaim, Avada. Today is the first day of Shovavim, and Baruch Hashem, Eigensheter, the Schustos, or even this hard time. Schwierigkeiten in Klal Yisrael, but Eigensheter, B'siyat Ishmai has now shurim all over the world, 10 different languages and hundreds of different communities from and not from all over the world. Shurim mechizik abayis, taras hamishpacha, tarosam v'kedushosan shel Yisrael. There are many shuls that were closed till this week. They told me that they don't have any shiurim because nobody wants to come. They started afterwards putting them on Zoom, and the Zoom will go on Zoom. People stopped coming to Zoom too. And now he said, Shovavim you're starting. And they were so happy to open the shul again for shiurim. Yeah, with the social distancing, with the mask. But Lamai says the biggest zikr Rabbim, everyone wants to have that schus of sponsoring Tarosam, V'Kedushosan, Shel Yisrael all over the world. Should please call Eigensheter at 718-851-8651 or send in the donation to Eigensheter 1235 47th Street, Brooklyn, New York 11219. Or send the email to ist@yeshivanet.com. And if you don't have a shir in Yeshua, come to one of the Askalim of Eigensheter. We'll try to help you. Not so good is Baruch the Zaka is Yisrael. Figi Chivrim Toy Mitzvah. Shnemal and Chavas Man Sitka Yagdol Torah V'Yadeh. Amen. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach V'Olam Ma'is Borach. Mincha and Sikum after Mincha.